I am your host, Patti Handy. So happy you're here, and thank you for joining me. I know I changed my time to 2 o'clock. Starting today in June, we're going twice a month, the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, from 2 to 3 o'clock from the noon hour. So I appreciate you following. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station on AM 1220 and 98.1 FM. We're also on Facebook Live. If you go to the KHTS page, you can go Facebook Live and watch us there. Send in questions if you want. I've got a great guest on the show today, and you may have lots of questions for her. You can also listen live anywhere if you download your KHTS app from your favorite app store or at hometownstation.com. And just click on the Listen Live little tab at the top. If you've missed any episodes in the past, you can listen to them at startingoverwithpatti.com. Click on the media link. And there you can also download a free guide, 6 Steps to Financial Healing After Divorce, at that same website, again, startingoverwithpatti.com. So what's the show about? My mission here is to help people transition from brokenness to brilliance after divorce. I want to help people move through the pain and overwhelm of divorce to a place of happiness, empowerment, and peace. My focus is to bring you tools, hope, inspiration, and help you navigate this time in your life. As a mortgage advisor, I'm going to touch upon money issues, of course, but I'm also going to bring in a host of different speakers to address you financially, emotionally, and physically. So I'm going to take a few minutes here to share a bit about my story, just so you have a little better idea of where I came from. I've been divorced now for quite a while. I got divorced when my son was 18 months old. It came at a shock, although now when I look back, I see I ignored the signs, and I should have not ignored the signs. I wasn't working because I was staying at home with him. My son was a miracle baby. I had him after 5 years of trying, and we had him by in vitro. So I left the corporate banking world and wanted to stay at home with him. So I was enjoying my time with him at home. And then my husband sat me down one night and just said he wanted a divorce. And it was an absolute shock. I realized after a few minutes that I stopped breathing and just kind of thought initially he was kidding, because we kind of kidded a lot, but he wasn't kidding. I could say I was scared, overwhelmed. It was beyond sad. It was a very dark time. And I remember this weird random thought that came into my head, and this is sort of the catalyst for what's motivating me to do this. Amidst the madness, I remember laying on the floor thinking that we were going to be okay. My son and I were going to be okay. And that thought came into my head because I knew financially, the lessons that I learned from my parents very young, that we were going to be okay. I knew how to take care of my son and myself. I knew how to make money, manage it, invest it. And that brought me a sense of comfort. Although I was still an emotional mess and things were complete chaos, I was in that place where I knew I could take care of me. And the money piece was a big part of it. And I thank my parents who taught me at a very young age about this, and I truly appreciate that now, having gone through the divorce. And again, this is my inspiration for my work here. I want to make sure that if you're going through divorce or post-divorce, that those tools are something that you have the inspiration, the hope, the tools to help you get through this difficult time. We're dealing with the heartache of a devastating loss, and the money issue should not be an additional stressor. That should not be a piece of it. And I know it is for so many. I see it a lot with clients. So don't get me wrong. It wasn't a cakewalk financially. Everyone knows that going through divorce is expensive, and it wreaks havoc on your finances. And it did ours. But I knew that I was going to be okay coming out from under it. So it's really been a interesting journey, and I have taken this experience in life and wanted to again give back with the combination of that life experience and my work experience, and help people to just feel better financially. So I'm also going to open the show to questions. If you have questions, you can call in. Our number here to call in is 661-298-5487. You can also, again, jump onto Facebook Live and type your questions. We'll monitor those. So my speaker is Jen Walters. Is she on air? She's okay. Jen, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thanks for joining us. So Jen is stuck in traffic. She's on her way, so she's going to be in studio here in probably 15, 20 minutes or so. But she's calling in for now, so hopefully we won't drop her. But she's an amazing resource for us and for anyone who has credit questions. So going through a divorce, of course, we deal with the money piece, like we discussed, and the credit and our credit scores, understanding our debts. All that is something that, when you're going through divorce, becomes even more complicated. And most people don't understand how FICOs work, the FICO scores, and how you get those up and how you can monitor those to keep them in a great level. But when you're going through divorce, there's all kinds of havoc happening. So Jen Walters is a leading FICO expert. She's a regional director for Home Loans Assist for the state of California, and has been working in credit and lending for 12 years. She's helped thousands of people get their credit profiles back in order and position themselves to start anew. Her company specializes in helping people who have experienced credit and financial challenges, help them get a fresh start, and empowering people with tools and knowledge necessary to achieve and sustain credit health and peace of mind. And one thing I want to note here, credit scores not just are important, that's terrible English, are not just important for buying a house. Your FICO score will dictate your interest rate on your car loans. It will dictate potentially a job or not, because your employers will oftentimes pull your credit. If you decide to rent, your landlord will pull credit, and you may or may not lose that particular place because your scores were higher or lower than somebody else's. You have credit cards, obviously, like I said, auto loans, and of course the home mortgages. So your FICO score is your report card to the world, and maintaining, keeping a good credit score is so important. So Jen, thank you for joining me today. I'm really happy to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much.
Of course. So let's kind of get started and jump right into this. So how does, from a judging perspective, how does a judge rule with a divorce decree, and how does it impact the person's credit profile?
So one of the most common misconceptions during divorce is that if you have a judge tell you you're responsible for this debt, you get to keep this property, that then translates to the bureaus and the lenders, and it's very unfortunate that it does not. The divorce decree itself and division of assets and debt really to the credit bureaus isn't worth the paper that it's written on. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have a legal responsibility to uphold what the judge tells you to do. It just means that it does not absolve you from the original debt. So even though the judge says that you pay off this card or you get to keep the house, if your name is on those items and your ex has awarded those assets, you are still legally bound and responsible, and they will still report it to your credit if your ex is late. So it can sometimes be even more devastating, especially if you have a messy divorce, when you have your ex not making payments on time or not upholding their end of the bargain. It still will impact your credit.
So in that case, what should a spouse do if they're awarded, the judge says you're not responsible, and yet your name's still on the card? What should that person do in that case?
If credit card, first and foremost, I would say contact the credit card company and find out how you can get yourself removed from that card. Now, if you're a joint account holder, sometimes that can be more challenging. But if you talk to the creditor and let them know, hey, here's what the judge said, they may ask for free. Sorry, I apologize. I don't know if you can hear my GPS there. I apologize for that. But what they would want to do is contact the creditor, and they would tell the creditor what the judge said and see if the creditor will remove them from that account. That's the fastest way to do it. If you're an authorized user, that is even easier for you to go ahead and get removed. You can just call them up and say, hey, I'm an authorized user. I no longer want to be on this account. Please remove me. So that's going to be your quickest.
Oh, did we lose you?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Okay, sorry. I'm nearly to the station. I'm nearly to the station.
Oh,
So
awesome. Okay.
yeah. Now, if the creditor is unwilling or unable to remove you from that, the next best course of action is to make sure, even if your ex partner is no longer making payments on time, if you're able to do so, you should make the payments to save your credit, and then consult with an attorney and look at litigation to enforce what the judge has ordered them to pay.
And if the spouse is saying, "Oh yeah, I'm taking care of it, I'm paying it, don't worry about it," when in fact that spouse is not, is there any way to monitor that?
Yes. So if you're still on the account, then you can call in and ask what the payment status is, and they will let you know if payment has been received. If payment has not been received on the due date, I would suggest making the payment yourself if you can, to save the late payment and damage on your credit.
Yeah, at least make the minimum payment, even if it's, $30, $40, $50, whatever. Make that minimum payment so there's no lates on the credit. So later, if in fact that spouse has been adding credit to that card that's not joint, how is that addressed?
If the spouse has been, I'm sorry, if the spouse.
So if you have a credit card that's a joint card, and the spouse is continuing to charge expenses on that card, is that additional debt the responsibility of the other spouse?
So in the eyes of the judge, then yes, the other spouse would be responsible. But if you're both on the credit card, you are equally responsible. So a truly best course of action is to get removed from the card, or request that the judge would enforce closing that card if possible. If you think that your ex-spouse is going to continue to rack up debt, you're going to be responsible for it. So requesting that the judge close it out. And then the other course of action is that, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do and they're incurring additional debt, I would absolutely consult an attorney to consider taking them to court, either to enforce the judgment in front of the original judge or file a civil suit to be compensated for those expenses.
Yeah, like I said earlier, a divorce is not a cheap endeavor, and I could see how that would be an added expense. But in the long run, your credit is so important. Now, as you, if you were to be removed if they couldn't remove you from the card, and worst case scenario, had to close the account out because that was the only way to get yourself off of that credit, you would lose that history. And if that's a very old card, that could negatively impact your score as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So you ideally want to keep revolving accounts, credit cards, open as long as possible. When you close it out or get removed from the account, then you do immediately lose all of that credit history for that account. But you have to kind of weigh the benefits versus the detriment, because if they're out there charging up expenses that you're liable for, that's a huge financial burden on top of everything else you're already going through.
Right.
So it might be worthwhile to go ahead and close it out. Now, if it's agreeable, if you guys can get along and if everybody can divide the responsibility effectively, then it would be a good idea to keep it open if possible, or at least get it transferred into just one person's name so that you could keep that history on the card.
So would a credit card, let's just say you called your Visa and you said, I'm going through a divorce and it's not friendly, I need him to be off my account or her off my account. Is there any way that they can separate that and keep your history? Or if you separate the two of you, there's just no way to keep the history. The account's closed and that's done. There's no way to separate that out. Is that even possible?
Typically what they would do is keep the account open, and just one person would be able to inherit all of the benefit of the card. Now,
Okay.
you could ask them if they wanted to report it that way and separate it for you. They absolutely could. It's not often that they will do that for you, though.
Okay. So for those who are listening, if that's a situation that you're dealing with, make the phone call to the credit card company or whatever creditor. Have that conversation. Tell them I'm going through a divorce. Here's what's happening. I in a perfect world, I don't want to lose my history. It's I've worked hard to rebuild a credit or build my score. And is there any way that you could make this happen and walk through that scenario? And all they could do is say no. You're better off asking and them saying no than not asking at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always worth a try. Sometimes they'll work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is the best way, generally speaking, to rebuild credit after divorce? What are some of the top tips that you share with your clients?
Yeah, so again, making sure that you are independent on any shared accounts, removed from or take full ownership of any previously shared accounts. Keeping any cards that you had that were in your name that you added your ex-spouse as an authorized user to, I would keep those cards and then just call the creditor and have them remove the spouse. If none of those things are an option, then I would suggest seeking out a friend or family member, a trusted friend or family member who has an old, well-established card that's in good standing and really low balances, and getting added as an authorized user onto that. And then, of course, having 3 to 5 of your own credit cards in your name that are in good standing, and using those every single month for very small purchase once a month, and then pay it off.
So, buy groceries, buy gas for your car, paid off in full, and just slowly rebuild that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's good information. And for those who haven't heard, there's a website, annualcreditreport.com, that you can go to once a year for free and pull your credit. So during this process, if you're not sure of what credit cards you have, or if your spouse took care of all the credit and you were the one that was just not really necessarily watching that, pull your own credit and get that list of what credit cards you have outstanding and where you're an authorized user, where it's joint, and the credit report will tell you. That credit report will not give you your FICO score. You've got to pay additional fee for that. But the credit report will tell you if you're a joint, authorized user, the balance, the outstanding balance, the line. It'll give you all that history on there. And of course, it'll show whether you're late or there's any lates on there. So I definitely encourage you to do that and make sure that you keep an eye on that. We're going to be going to break here in just a minute. Jen, you're almost here?
I am, yeah. So I just parked outside, so I will be in there before the break's over.
Perfect timing. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening to KHTS 98.1 FM. We'll be right back.
Little Eye Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little Eye Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleeyeleaders.org.
Ladies, and any men listening too, what are the 2 things you need in an investment partner? Control and confidence. You need a partner that gives you control and confidence when investing your money. Sheeprock is that partner. They're a team of experienced money managers offering custom solutions to help meet your financial goals. And Sheeprock's people work with you, answering your questions and providing guidance. Face it, you're not an investment guru. That's what you have people like Sheeprock for. Contact Ben Witters at sheeprock.com, SHEAFF Brock.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Pilecki. Most people in Santa Clarita get hurt in a car accident every 8 years. Although most doctors will prescribe medication for relief, without specific rehabilitation, even minor neck injuries cause lifelong problems. And hot pack, twist and crack, want stim with that is neither specific nor rehabilitation. But our custom-tailored treatments are based on Nobel Prize-winning research. If recently injured, you may qualify for no-cost treatment. Read my reviews on Google and get better.
Remember when Mom would bake cookies and you'd sneak some raw cookie dough? Raw cookie dough is the best, and now you can get safe-to-eat raw cookie dough at Doughlicious Sweets and Treats at the Westfield Town Center Mall. Doughlicious Sweets and Treats raw cookie dough comes in several flavors like birthday cake, sugar cookie, unicorn, and everyone's favorite chocolate chip. Not into the raw stuff? No worries. You can also get freshly baked cookies or buy the dough to bake yourself. Doughlicious Sweets and Treats near JCPenney's in the mall.
One more day. One more day.
KHTS is proud to present Diamond Rio, 4-time Country Group of the Year, 23 top 10 hits. Experience Grammy Award winners Diamond Rio like you've never seen them before. Here in our hometown at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center. Country legends Diamond Rio, and featuring Country Showdown winner Savannah Burrows.
Why is my heart feeling a touch of jealousy?
Savannah Burrows and Diamond Rio, together at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center, Saturday, June 30th.
What a beautiful mess, what a beautiful mess I'm in.
Tickets are going fast. Visit canyonspac.com to purchase yours. canyonspac.com for Diamond Rio.
And the bad news is you're gone.
Do you like to rock across Africa?
Then the wait is over.
Africa Rocks! Africa's Greatest Hits is now available at the San Diego Zoo. And who could forget 99 red baboons?
Or the African crested porcupine smash hit, I Got Quills to Pay the Bills. Hey, don't get too close.
And the hits keep on coming.
Africa Rocks has all your favorites from 6 different African habitats.
Hungry like a leopard.
Ibex is back.
Harder, better, fossa stronger.
And a new track from Kendrick Lamar.
Now, Larry.
Yes, Chuck?
A collection of this magnitude, I'd fly to Africa.
Well, don't pack your bags, friend. Africa Rocks is only available right here at the San Diego Zoo.
Wow, that really does rock.
No, it Africa Rocks.
Welcome to Africa Rocks. Experience 6 different African habitats, including our first ever aquatic enclosure with African penguins. Only at the San Diego Zoo.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
Santa Clarita Valley residents now have greater access to the excellent physicians and high-quality medical services for which Providence Holy Cross is known. Providence Holy Cross Health Center in Santa Clarita features state-of-the-art cancer and imaging technologies, as well as board-certified physicians in a variety of medical specialties. Quality and compassion from a healthcare provider you can depend on. For more information, call 1-888-HEALING or visit us at providence.org.
KHTS, your hometown station.
You're listening to Starting Over with Patti Handy, Senior Mortgage Advisor with American Family Funding. Patti's show will focus on healing, inspiring, and empowering anyone going through a divorce or a loss of a spouse. They're talking about everything from money and managing finances, legal issues, emotional healing, physical well-being, and so much more.
I'll be the last one standing, 2 hands in the air, I'm a champion. You'll be looking up at me when it's over. I live for the battle, I'm a soldier.
Welcome back to Starting Over. I'm your host, Patti Handy. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, AM 1220, 98.1 FM. Thank you again for joining us. In studio, I have Jen Walters, the credit extraordinaire. We're talking everything credit, divorce, rebuilding credit, making sure that you're doing the right things to maintain your score and rebuild your score after credit. Again, if you have questions for us, feel free to call into the station. You can call us at 661-298-5487 anonymously. Facebook Live, you can post your questions on Facebook Live, and we will be monitoring that and answer those questions as well. So, Jen, we covered a lot in the first, say, 20 minutes, just discussing, if you've got joint cards, what to do, how to maintain your the credit. A lot of it's going to really come down to how well they can play in the sandbox together, and if they can cooperate, and because they, at the end of the day, the better they're both going to be if they can come out pretty unscathed with credit damage. So hopefully they, can do that. What if? Well, let me come back. We were talking off air about the division of assets before the decree. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so if you have not actually finished the divorce yet, and you have the opportunity to kind of plan out what you're going to do, I would talk to all of the creditors ahead of time, try and refinance things ahead of time, and position yourself to take ownership of as many of the older accounts as you can. And that's more easily done before the decree actually happens. So a couple of ideas too. If you have a car that you're going to keep that you're both on, it would be a really good idea to look into refinancing it as quickly as possible to get the other spouse off of that car. And again, just calling the creditors and working with them as much as possible. The creditors are more likely to look at the divorce decree and divide the account than the credit bureau will. Communication is really key when you're looking at creditors and your debts. The people that kind of just let it go and then it finally starts hitting their credit report and then they try and do damage control after the fact have a much tougher battle on their hands than if you're proactive and you communicate on ahead of the game.
Yeah, that's so important. I know, having gone through a divorce and just the story I shared earlier, when you're in the midst of all that emotional chaos, the last thing on your mind is, how do I maintain my credit score? It's just you're trying to deal with your kids if you've got kids, and the heartache of this loss and, just the emotional roller coaster. So it takes a real conscious, mindful decision to go, okay, I know I need to heal and I know I've got this path and journey I've got to go on, but I've got to also be smart about this and I need to make these decisions. So what do I need to do to maintain, my credit or my finances or my assets or, whatever the case is. So as hard as it is to stay mindful of that, it's so important to do that. And if you need some help, reach out to a family friend or a trusted friend and say, you know what, my bandwidth is just maxed out. I got to deal with this. Can you help me stay accountable to you or help me not forget about this or help guide me or something, just so you have somebody that's on your side, whether it's your CPA or a financial planner or just a friend who's, you can trust. I know you've got to call the bureaus or the creditors yourself. You can't have somebody else call for you, but if you have somebody that's with you that goes, hey, you know what, did you call them today because you were going to deal with that? So again, just because of the emotional roller coaster that you're on, oftentimes that kind of stuff slips between the cracks, and then 6 months later, when you're kind of getting your bearings and you realize, oh dear, I just completely messed up everything, when it comes to that. And
I can tell you that when I personally went through it, I had lists everywhere. I had a million lists for every single thing I could think of, and every time I could check off one little thing, it was just a little bit of empowerment, a little bit of success, and that way I didn't have to feel so stressed out worrying about what I was forgetting, because it's written down somewhere and you'll get to each one of them at some point.
I love the idea of a list.
Yeah, financial list, credit list, all of them.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, even like kids and what to do and activities, and just because your mind just goes, when it, it's short. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when it comes to credit and divorce? Have you witnessed some of the just, oh gosh, you shouldn't have done that, and let's try to avoid that?
Yeah, I think probably closing down accounts that don't necessarily have to be. So, we definitely want to alleviate ourselves of the financial liability of purchases that are not ours. But if we can salvage that account and keep it open, then that's going to be most advantageous for us. So if there is a way to get in there, a lot of people too, when they finally pay off a card, a big debt on a card that was a high interest rate, they shut the card down so that they won't go use it again or have that temptation. But they're really hurting themselves because you're losing when you close an account. it completely disappears from your FICO score calculation. It's now ignored. Closed accounts, same thing happens if you pay off a car loan, finally pay off your mortgage or pay it off early, you lose all the good benefits of that account. If there was something negative on that account, if you had a late payment, that'll still report. But you really want to try and find every angle, every advantage that you can to continue to build that score, because you are going to have to close some of them. So if you can salvage it, definitely do so. I would also say that it's important to establish new credit in your own name, revolving accounts, as quickly as possible. And as you mentioned, pre-decree, while you're still going through the process, the sooner that you can open those new accounts in your own name and start rebuilding that history, the better. Now, when you do start rebuilding and using cards again on your own, you want to make sure they're always below 10%. A lot of people think 30, a lot of people think 50. The true number to really maximize a card is less than 10% of the limit. So here's a good example. My youngest daughter just turned 20, and I do a lot of this myself, and she started using credit cards. I told her to go out and get 3 cards, no more than 5 total. 3 to 5 is really the key zone you want to be in. But I had her put Netflix on one, I had her put her Amazon Prime on another, and then her Pandora Premium on one. And then she just auto pays it with her bank. So she doesn't even have to think about it. It's being used every single month for a very small purchase, and she never has the temptation to overspend.
Nice. That's great. And each one of those cards has a separate charge, and so there's 3 credit cards getting built in that history. So tell us, what's the mix that the Bureau's like as far as the credit mix? You were mentioning credit cards, but what's the healthiest mix that they like?
Yeah, so your account mix is really 10% of your score. And in a perfect world, FICO algorithms are looking to see that you have a mortgage, that you have an installment loan. Installment loans are when you have a fixed payment over a specified term, right? There's a start date, there's an end date, your payment never changes. That's installment.
Like a car payment.
Car payment, yeah, student loan, something like that.
Okay.
So the FICO algorithm's looking for mortgage, installment, 3 to 5 revolving accounts, and then it's also looking for an open other. Open other can be tricky to find. The best example is a no-limit American Express charge card. Not their hybrid cards that you can carry a balance, not their credit cards, the true charge card that you have to pay in full every month. It doesn't have a balance or a limit, so it doesn't report as revolving, it reports as other.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. So for somebody who's renting, who doesn't have a mortgage, can they ever get a score into the 800s?
No. If you don't have a mortgage, you're not going to get a score in the 800s. So the FICO algorithm, 10% of your score goes to your account mix. 10% of your score goes to what we call new credit. This is where your inquiries live. This is where also a lot of people don't realize you are penalized for any new accounts. So, I mean, FICO is so anti-budget, right? It's completely against what's good for your peace of mind, what's good for your bank account. The FICO algorithms and the whole scoring model is designed to keep you in lots of debt long-term and see how well you juggle everything, which is just what you want to do in the middle of a divorce, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not.
So it really wants to see the right blend of accounts. They want to see them open for a long time. So, for example, 15% of your score is based off of your length of credit history. And this is an average of your open active accounts. It's not how old your oldest account is or when you started using credit, and anything you close out or don't use regularly is ignored. So you want to keep as many open as long as you can. That's also why I mentioned maybe getting added as an authorized user. Yes, you can still be added to someone's card and have that help bolster your FICO score. Just be careful. Don't get added to the wrong card.
Yeah, really.
I've had some people go out and they get added onto a card that is 6 months old. Every payment's been late and it's 150% utilized. So that's not a good card to get added to.
Not a good history, yeah.
Yeah. But if it's a long-standing card or, if someone has one of those open other accounts, that's helpful too. And it just kind of helps give you a lift on your FICO score.
And can that person that you're being an authorized user, can that be anybody even like not family? Could it be a friend? Can it be a colleague? Can it be anybody in life?
Yes.
Doesn't need to be a family or related.
Nope. If you want to add someone, you can add anybody that you like to your card as an authorized user. Now, from a mortgage perspective, sometimes there are some underwriting guidelines that are picky about authorized user trade lines. Just depends on the program you're looking at. But from a FICO perspective, just having your name on the account, it pulls it in, and immediately the algorithm just recognizes it as a revolving account or installment, whatever the case may be.
And is that history of that person, all that history comes with you?
Yes.
All of it?
All of it, immediately.
Okay. So you want to make sure that you are hooking up with somebody who's got their credit together.
Yes.
Hopefully a parent who's very old, who's got years and years of, clean, super credit.
Yes.
That would be like the ideal situation.
The caution there might be that you want to make sure they're using it, though, as well. Because if you don't make a payment or a purchase on a revolving account for 60 days, the algorithm will then ignore it. It considers it dormant or inactive, and it won't factor it into the score. So you want to make sure that at least every other month, a small purchase or payment is occurring on the account.
So if you have a credit card, if you've got, say, 5 credit cards, and you tend to use one all the time, you should every couple months throw your groceries on there, throw gas, fill up your tank, do whatever, but pay it in full and then forget about it for a few months and then go back. Otherwise, you're saying that doesn't really help you.
It doesn't really help you if it's just sitting there quietly.
Okay.
So your payment history is 35% of your score. That's the biggest chunk of your score, and that's where all your good payments live. Every account on your credit report will max out at 99 months reviewed. And what generates a month reviewed is if there was a payment or a purchase on that account, right? It looks at the history and says, was there a payment made? Was it on time? And if you're not using the card, you're not making a payment, so you're not getting your month reviewed. So you want to make sure you get each of those to that 99 as quickly as possible, of course. And the more on-time payments you have, the better ratio you're going to have to negate any negative payments or any late payments that may have occurred throughout that process, the separation process.
Okay. And then the last piece, the 30% piece?
That's your revolving accounts. 30% of your score is your credit cards. So a lot of people I talk to subscribe to the debt-free philosophy, or they've lived through a traumatic event and they just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have a credit card or you don't use your credit card at least every other month, you're actively giving up nearly a third of your FICO score potential, just leaving it out there.
Wow.
And it's huge. And it's good to know that it's per card. So if you have one card, it accounts for the entire 30% of your score. If you have 2 cards, each card is only 15% of your score. If you have 4 cards, each one's only 7.5%, and so on.
Okay.
So it's all looked at per card, and you want to keep each card, again, under 10% of the limit. So if it's a $200 card, I can spend $20 once in the month, put it away, don't use it again, and then pay it off when I get the bill.
Okay. And what about those, going through divorce? Sometimes, and I've seen this with clients. Let me actually come back to your point real quick, and then I'll go back to my question. I have seen with clients those that have been so scarred with bankruptcy or issues with credit that once they got it cleaned up, they just would not use credit again. Everything is paid with cash, and they use their jars of cash, and they're just scared to death, and their credit took a hit as far as price or the score, because you're not teaching anybody, or you're not telling anybody, the bureaus, how well you can maintain your money, because there's no way for them to judge you, right?
Right.
In essence, by not having any credit. There's no way for someone to say, oh, that person knows how to use and pay and use and pay, and that's why it's important to use and pay.
Right.
Keep that active. So talking about bankruptcy, so a client or anybody who has gone through a foreclosure or a bankruptcy, how long does that stay on the credit report?
10 years.
On both?
So foreclosures sometimes will fall off prior to 10 years, but I have seen them report as long as 12 years. The bankruptcy will stay on for 10 years from the discharge date, unless you were to engage a company that would go in and clean that up. And that's, I think, a good point to make is that Just because you have damage doesn't mean that it cannot be addressed or resolved or removed prior to that expiration date.
Right.
But yeah, typically left untouched, a bankruptcy will stay on for 10 years from discharge date.
Okay. And for those looking at buying a home, I can speak from the lending perspective. We don't have to have those off your credit report. You can buy a house again after a foreclosure after 3 years with FHA and 7 years conventional. So even though it's on the credit report, you can still get a loan. And speaking of loans, let me just tap on that real quick, and then we're going to go to break. If you've got a husband and wife going through divorce and they're both on title and they're both on the loan, and they're splitting that house, or one person's buying the other out, that they have to refinance that house to get that person off of the loan. They can both stay on title without, or be removed from title easy enough, but to get them off the loan, it has to be refinanced for it to be completely removed from a lending perspective. We are going to go to one more commercial break. We'll be right back. Any questions, call us. Again, you listen to KHTS 98.1 FM, and we'll be right back.
Santa Clarita Philharmonic has begun its season of free concerts. The SCP is a non-profit community-based volunteer symphony orchestra comprised of local musicians from throughout the Santa Clarita Valley who are dedicated to providing quality classical music for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Like the Santa Clarita Philharmonic on Facebook or visit santaclaritaphilharmonic.org for more information.
Marinated strips of steak grilled to perfection with onions, peppers, jack and cheddar cheese, ranchero sauce. Mouth-watering yet? I thought it would. I could keep going, but I won't tease you like that. I'll just tell you where to go. Cabo Cabana and Stevenson Ranch, where fresh is just the beginning. Delicious tacos, burritos, enchiladas, tostadas, Baja Authentic style Mexican food that you just won't be able to resist. What more could you ask for? Cabo Cabana on the old road in Stevenson Ranch.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call the Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrocoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
There's only one Santa Clarita plastic surgeon who is Yale trained and board certified, Dr. Justin Heller.
To be a board certified plastic surgeon like myself, what that truly entails is about 5 to 7 years of honed surgical training in reconstructive, all areas, as well as aesthetics, which means your facelifts, your breast augmentations, your body contouring, true training, and board certification. In fact, that's the only board certified area that can be achieved in this realm.
Dr. Justin Heller, warm, understanding, always available for guidance because he's local. HellerPlasticSurgery.com.
The USC sexual abuse scandal is heart-wrenching, as more evidence is revealed showing school officials ignored legitimate complaints from dozens and dozens of female students dating back 3 decades. Many are still traumatized. The Santa Clarita law firm of Owen Patterson Owen is helping USC victims get financial assistance for their suffering and see that justice is served. If you know someone impacted by the USC gynecologist's abuse, visit opolaw.com. opolaw.com.
All-Star Sports Grills is the best place in town to catch a Dodger game on one of their 17 screens and choose a cold one from 23 different tap beers. All-Star Sports Grills prides itself on their fresh, made-to-order menu, including half-pound Angus burgers. Enjoy an all-star comedy show the 4th Wednesday of the month. All-Star Sports has a pet-friendly and smoking patio. All-Star Sports Grills on Bouquet Canyon, north of Plum Canyon.
Ladies, and any men listening too, what are the 2 things you need in an investment partner? Control and confidence. You need a partner that gives you control and confidence when investing your money. Sheeprock is that partner. They're a team of experienced money managers offering custom solutions to help meet your financial goals. And Sheeprock's people will work with you, answering your questions and providing guidance. Face it, you're not an investment guru. That's what you have people like Sheeprock for. Contact Ben Witters at sheeprock.com. SHEAFF Brock.com.
Hey there, I'm Tori with your hometown station. Weather, sunny skies this week, but hot with temperatures in the low to mid 90s, overnight lows in the mid 60s. Don't miss out. Get your tickets to Diamond Rio at the Santa Clarita Performing Arts Center, College of the Canyons, Saturday, June 30th at 7 p.m. with special guest Savannah Burrows. Tickets are on sale now. Visit canyonspac.com. That's canyonspac.com.
You're listening to Starting Over with Patti Handy, Senior Mortgage Advisor with American Family Funding. Patti's show will focus on healing, inspiring, and empowering anyone going through a divorce or a loss of a spouse. They're talking about everything from money and managing finances, legal issues, emotional healing, physical well-being, and so much more.
I'll be the last one standing.
Hello and welcome back to Starting Over. Thank you for staying with us. We are talking about credit and divorce and rebuilding credit. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, on 98.1 FM, 11 or 12:20 a.m. That was a little biff. Keep on going, Patti. So, Jen Walters, we didn't let you share your information. So, how can people reach you?
Yeah, so I'm accessible by email, text message, cell phone. My cell phone number is 562-386-5058, and my email address is jwalters, common spelling, at homeloans with an S, assist.com. And our website is just www.homeloansassist.com. And Patti, what we do really is help people to get a fresh start. A lot of people end up with items on their credit that they didn't even know they had. Divorces can become very, very messy. Life events happen to people. And my strongest hope is that people would know that just because something has gotten onto your credit doesn't mean you're stuck with it. Our company has been around for over 12 years now. We've helped many, many people to get negative and derogatory items deleted completely from their credit report using the letter of the law to maintain compliance with reporting accuracy. So truth be told, our company has very, very strong score increases for our clients every single month. And, you know, we offer a lot of supportive and educational services for those folks that have experienced things like divorce.
Fantastic. And you're going to offer a free consultation?
So anybody that's listening today, if you would like to just know where you're at, know what's going on your credit and what you can do about it to change it, we will give you guys a full free in-depth consultation. Just make sure that you mention Patti in the show today. It's complimentary consultation, tell you exactly what's going on, if there's anything we can do to help, how long that process might take, and provide you with some excellent coaching and education on positive trade line management.
Great. And what I love about your company is that you remove the things from the credit permanently.
Yes.
There are so many companies out there that I've heard of and seen where they offer something and they remove something for a collection or something for a short period of time, and then 6 months later it's back on. And that doesn't serve anybody.
No. What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? So in your case, it's a permanent, like you said, by compliance and the letter of the law, that it's removed.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Now, the only caution I would say there is that occasionally if there's a collection item, say, and it's left unpaid, well, I can get that collection deleted. However, that collector might then sell it to a different collector. And that new collector could then re-report the debt. So it is a good idea to resolve any collection or outstanding debt, settle it at some point so that it doesn't keep coming back from the dead. We call it zombie debt.
Yeah. Good word, yeah.
But so we do advise and coach clients on how they can effectively do that, saving the most money, resolving those types of debts, and making sure that they won't keep reappearing on the credit report in that manner. Okay. But we are very, very effective at getting those negative items removed from credit reports.
Okay, awesome. So speaking of collections, I see a lot in my business, medical collections, where clients, when I pull credit, they had no idea that they had this medical collection on their report. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you kind of share, but paying them off can hurt the score. Why don't you talk to that?
Absolutely. So, a lot of people think that's what they should do, pay old debt, but typically what you're doing is just refreshing your date of last activity, which is when did you last make a payment or purchase on the account. The farther you get away from that active date on a collection, the less and less it impacts your score. So you make a payment, you pay it off, it refreshes your last activity. And truth be told, the FICO algorithm doesn't even look at the balance. The balance means nothing. $100,000 unpaid collection, $0 collection you just paid off are exactly equal. All that matters is how recent is it. So you take the old, you make it new, your score drops, you're not even going to begin to recover for at least 24 months from that.
So if you're in the middle of buying a house, you want to make sure you speak to your lender and get coached on what not to do, because if you think, oh, I'm going to pay this off and get this gone, that could price you out of the market because your FICO score dropped and suddenly, it's a whole different ballgame when it comes to numbers. Tell us about resources. You had mentioned Identity Guard. Tell us about some of those resources for borrowers who want some information.
Yeah, so it's important for consumers to be careful where they go for credit scoring and what they think they're really at from a FICO perspective. Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, a lot of these online consumer reports are not using FICO algorithms. Fair Isaac Corporation actually produces more than 50 different algorithms to assess risk. Those online providers are not using really any of those. The resources that are very good for consumers to use to get an accurate picture of what their scores look like are going to be Identity Guard or Privacy Guard. I have no affiliation with them, but I like them because they're very similar to mortgage scores. You get all three reports, you get all three scores, and you have an accurate representation of what your credit health really looks like.
And it's so important. I get calls from clients all the time. Oh, yeah, I checked my credit on Credit Karma and I've got this score. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it is. Let me pull it and I'll tell you the real score.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's like, what? They're shocked.
Well, and a true FICO scale starts at 300 and goes up to 850. Those online scales, Credit Karma starts at 450 and goes up to 950.
Oh, geez.
So it's not accurate at all. It's
Not
a consumer model. It's just to help you be aware of what's happening in your credit profile. It's good for trending, lets you know if there's any changes, but the scores on those are not reliable at all.
Okay, awesome. So we're down to about a minute. Do a quick recap for us as far as, I know in a minute it's very little time, but for those who didn't listen to the first part of or I should say, tune into the first part of the show, go back and listen to what Jen had to say, but those going through divorce, separating cards.
Yeah, separate them if you can. Even if your ex-spouse is told they're liable for the card, if your name is on that card, get off of it if possible, or make sure those payments are made on time, even if you have to pay it yourself, because it will report as a late on your credit, and it's definitely challenging trying to get it deleted. Reestablish your own independent credit as quickly as possible. Maintain your balances at 10% or less. Have 3 to 5 cards. Use them every month for a small charge. Auto pay it if you can, and keep as many accounts open as long as you can.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jen Walters. Thank you for tuning in to Starting Over with Patti Handy. Tune in to us the second or the fourth Friday or fourth Wednesday. Wow, of this month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
KHTS